Right now, it's time to welcome our next live guest of the morning. We've got Charlie Safra with us, who is the president of CS Consulting, and honestly, one of my favorite people that I've met in person over the last few months, finally getting back to networking in person. So Charlie, thank you for joining us on the show this morning for Freightwaves Now.
Thanks so much for having me. Great to see you guys.
So I finally got to meet you in person after like a year and a half of following you on LinkedIn at the TIA conference in San Diego. And we all know that conferences are like gold when it comes to networking, right? And give us a little bit of your perspective about what that means from a recruiting standpoint and how you cast your wide network web almost when you're at those types of events.
Yeah, I mean, I think that everyone was obviously sent home in March of 2022 and kind of forced to figure out ways to network differently. So the pandemic changed the way we network, but there still is a lot to be said about, live networking and the opportunity to meet new people, especially people that you're able to connect with virtually. So my advice is, take advantage of these live opportunities. It was great to meet you and connect with all these people that I've been communicating with over the last couple of years. And virtual networking is still something that, it requires a lot of practice, a lot of consistency, but it is possible to build a really strong network. I mean, most of my network has come from LinkedIn and, is me sitting behind a computer until I have a chance to meet them. So I really encourage people to take advantage of both, but not to discount virtual networking. It's definitely something that's going to be a big part of our future.
So Charlie, what advice do you have for those individuals that might not be as outgoing, or someone like myself a little bit more introverted, or maybe someone that's a little bit nervous or shy about approaching someone they don't know yet? What kind of advice do you have for them when it gets into live or virtual networking?
Yeah, I mean, networking is not easy. So I just want to put that out there that it does take a lot of mindfulness. It takes that consistency, that dedication. And you really have to, it's a two-part process. You have to build your network and then you have to leverage your network. So my advice for someone who's an introvert, and I actually consider myself an introvert, is to think about giving before you are expecting to get. So a great way to do that is clearly through content. I mean, content is king right now. And if you're able to provide your network with advice, with thought leadership, with tips, and if you know who your audience is, then you can really target and provide information that they want to hear. So I always love that mentality is to, when you're starting to network, it's not what can you do for me? It's how can I help you? And then once you build that relationship, I've learned that it always comes full circle. So just really hanging on to that mentality of we're here to help each other. I'm not going to introduce myself and right away pitch you for something. I truly want to get to know you, want to build a relationship, understand how we can help each other. And I think that's my advice to anyone who's a little gun shy to do that is let it happen organically. Like really go into these relationships thinking about how you can help each other before you think about what can this person do for me.
Charlie, I want to get your thoughts on something that I like to call kind of the secondary handshake when I'm talking about networking. And the way that I do this when I go to a conference or I meet someone new is I'll get a business card, I'll talk to them in person, and then like 3 or 4 days later, you'll reach out with a secondary handshake, and that's normally virtually, whether that's through an email, you're following up through their LinkedIn profile, et cetera, and just kind of giving a, hey, thanks, it was great to meet you, I'm looking forward to some of the things that we could do in the future, let me know if you need anything, I'm available for you. Can you talk a little bit about that value of that secondary handshake, whether the first one was through a job application or through a face-to-face meet?
I love that. I've actually never used that term before, but I think that's a great way to put it is, we're already acquainted, we're introduced. I think the value there is that however you connected, you have a tidbit of information about that person. So even if it's something as simple as saying, hope you enjoyed the rest of your time in San Diego, wasn't the weather beautiful? You have a connection with that person, or it was great to chat with you over coffee and learn more about your family. I hope everyone is still doing well. And I think that's what networking and relationships are all about is thinking about the human behind the business. And obviously, we're all out there networking for business opportunities, but who is that person? And if you connect to that person and you can really, create something that you have in common, create a topic that you guys can banter about, it makes it a lot easier. And then when you go in for that secondary handshake, you reference that. People appreciate follow-up. People appreciate humans. You're not a robot. You are there to say, we met, I enjoyed our conversation, let's continue it. And I know that if somebody reaches out to me following a conference, I really respect the time that, they were thoughtful about it and that they didn't just meet me, shake my hand, and never look back. They wanted to have communication and have something a little more long-term. So totally agree with you, Kaylee, that it can be virtual. It just should be meaningful and kind of show your human side versus, copying and pasting your sales script into that email when you do reach out virtually.
And Charlie, what are some rules or advice in following up and just keeping in contact with certain people or certain individuals? Because I've been a part of quite a few industries over the last few years here, and there's sometimes where, I'm not in the same industry as I was with the current network that I have on my LinkedIn or something like that, but sometimes I still want to keep in contact with them because you never know where you might go in the future. Are there any rules or any advice for how you keep in contact with some acquaintances that you've made along the way?
Absolutely. When I think of networking, and I'm a huge fan of LinkedIn, clearly, but the beauty of LinkedIn is that it is 6 degrees of separation right there. And it allows you the opportunity to, start by connecting with the people your colleagues, even your former colleagues, your neighbor, anyone that you pick up the phone and have a conversation with, make that connection with them virtually. And then what starts to happen very organically is their connections then see your presence, and then their connections see you and what you're doing on the platform. So it's all about that trickle effect and really starting with a small circle of people you're comfortable with. But then it's about constantly connecting and, committing to spending 10, 15 minutes on LinkedIn every day, looking for new connections, looking through your connections, and just taking that network to the next level. I think then the secondary approach is really about the engagement. So it's great that we're connected, but if we're not actively engaging, it's good for nothing. And the way that you engage is, dropping comments on their feed. And if they're posting content, that's also another great tip for someone who might be shy. You don't have to just start by putting content out there and, original thought leadership. You could really easily start with commenting. And if you scroll through your LinkedIn feed, you'll see that those comments create a lot of banter. A lot of, people become approachable once they put a contact out there. So I think it's about constantly connecting, constantly engaging, whether you are putting something out there or reacting to someone else's post. That's really how the network starts to just overflow. And that's really how you can build off your connections, and the greater network that they're able to serve.
Do you have any events that you're looking forward to in the next 6 months to a year that you're really like, yes, this is the one that I'm going to, and this is going to just be it when it comes to networking?
I mean, obviously the Freight Waves event coming up in Chattanooga. We were super excited to go last year. Obviously, once that was postponed, we've been waiting for this event. I've actually never been to Chattanooga, so super excited to see your city. And like I said, I mean, all these people that, whether we met at the TIA earlier this year, I'm attending the CSCMP in September. So I know that my network will be at Freight Waves. It's definitely that event nobody wants to miss this year. So I'm excited just to re-engage with people that I've already met, maybe shake hands for the first time with people that I've been communicating with online. And I love the concept of how you guys are designing that event, just because it sounds like there's education, there's networking opportunities, but it also sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's where that human aspect can really come out, is let's bond organically because we're all here doing fun things together. So I have high hopes, but I know you guys won't let me down.
We won't let you down. And Charlie, we're looking forward to hosting you here in Chattanooga. If people want to reach out and get in touch with you, how can they do that?
LinkedIn. So they can find me on LinkedIn or CS Recruiting, our firm on LinkedIn. And anyone who has experience in supply chain, transportation, logistics, we'd love to talk to you. And any companies out there that are looking to hire great talent in the industry, we'd love to talk to you. So really appreciate it.
Awesome, Charlie. Thank you so much. And if you want to get tickets to that FreightWaves event that she's talking about, F3, right here in the heart of Freight Alley, it's first week in November of this year. Head to live.freightwaves.com to get those tickets right now. I believe we're running a ticket special for them, so go